At the last Autocross, I broke my home-built double wishbone front suspension on this passenger side. In this video, we are going to review all the damage and figure out the next steps, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, so it finally broke. I don't think it was anything to do with the design, hopefully, but we will kind of dig in there and see, because we've been running this suspension for a couple months now, all this year, and it just finally broke. But I think it was more of maybe some of the things that were happening on the track, because there was a transition from flat to a banked area, and maybe that is what caused the break on this side. Also got dented fenders on the other side from the wheel kind of pushing up in there, so we'll need to review that. But let's get this guy pulled off and see that rod end that actually broke. So kind of as I had mentioned, we're getting up into the front fender when turning. Kind of popped out the screw and everything, so I'll need to see if I can get that out. But yeah, it tore up the wrap and everything, so I'll need to maybe just kind of put a piece over top of that to kind of clean that up a little bit. The wrap is getting to the point of 2 to 3 years old at this point, so it's showing a little bit of a wear. We also got back into the fender here, pushed it back, so I'll need to loosen up the bolts and try to pull it back forward. But yeah, the damage. So the link that goes in between from here to the lower control arm, this piece here, the rod end at the lower control arm, this side, broke. So it just snapped off. So then there was nothing that was keeping the wheel from moving forward to back. It still could move, you know, up and down from the lower control arm and the upper control arm, but there was nothing that was really holding that lower control arm from moving just forward and back. So the caster was changing crazily as we were driving and steering and things like that. But tie rod is all still looking okay. So it's just this this rear link. So it must have been getting some kind of bending force going through here, I'm guessing, is what maybe made this piece fail. So these are mostly circle track parts, so they're not really made, I think, for doing too much of impacts and things like that. So like I said, we went from a transition from flat to the bank, and I think that was just a hard enough hit on this side that it snapped this guy. So I wish I had the GoPro on here and recording, because I've actually recorded this side. So I wish I had it on there during the failure. That would have been awesome. But from the video that I've had previously, I can kind of see that there's a slight bending going on in this this lower control arm. So right now you can kind of see that there's a bend kind of going in there from this from the sway bar. So I'm thinking that my sway bar is causing some twisting in that lower control arm, which may have caused this part to fail. So not quite sure what I'm going to do about that right now. I think for now I'm just going to get this all back together, because I have spare parts of this stuff, and then we will try to figure out maybe a redesign go on with the sway bar. I don't really like how the sway bar is anyways. It is still the stock one. I just did not have the time or money at the time of doing all the suspension work to change out the sway bar. So it'd be nice to try to do like a spline style one, but as you can kind of see, I don't have that much room there, because there's an engine. So I could maybe come forward, but I'd have to drop a lot in order to get like a straight spline bar, because the spline bars are straight, so they got to come straight across. I've seen them also be in the rear, which then I could maybe go down, you know, right underneath here, maybe attach back here and have a piece, I don't know, because the control arm would be right there. So, not quite sure what I'm going to do about the sway bar at the moment. I also kind of like the Grig style one, which is still a sway bar with the bends in it, but then it has the blade on the end. I don't know if they just kind of cut off a stock bar and then weld something on. That could also be something, but yeah, need to figure out something with the sway bar setup for the future. Here's the driver's side. As I said, there was some contact kind of going up in here, so you can kind of see how wavy and bent that that fender is. So I need to, it got all pushed in right in here, and there was actually cutting the tire. So the tire has some nice cuts in it going all the way around. These tires are kind of getting towards the end anyways, but they still have some good life in them. So I've cycled this suspension kind of up and down some, trying to see if there's any kind of bending going on right in here, and I don't really see any, but I don't have any loads going through the sway bar at the moment, so it's kind of hard to tell what's really going on. So it looks like there might be maybe a little bit of bending as the thing's going up, so I don't know if I need to redesign this rear link, because I do have this one mounted vertically obviously back there, but it's on a joint, and it looks like, I mean, it doesn't look like we're at full bind or anything on there, but something I need to possibly check. So yeah, this rear suspension tube and the rod end are what actually broke. Try to do some close-ups in there. So this is all really bent up. I think these bends are it recontacting into things as we were actually driving. I don't think these are actually from the failure. I think these are after the fact, and it also has like this red in there, so I think it was from it banging into things. That's probably torque paint. And then here's the actual failure one, or the rod end failure side. This is a Howe Racing rod end, and then this is a Weir's machine suspension tube. So I actually have a full spare for this because I actually had problems where this had locked up previously, so I bought spares just in case. And I just haven't used it. I just didn't have the spare with me, but I might try out. I also have these other rod ends, and they're all solid ones. They're not like a swivel one or anything like that, because you need to have it solid on the suspension side, so it's not, the suspension doesn't really flex around, but you can kind of see how maybe small that one is compared to this one, which is a FK bearings rod end, but it is also a little bit thicker width of the body there. So this one I had to put a washer in there, where this one I might not need to do a washer. Hopefully it fits in there. And then this one is a QA1 rod end, which looks to be maybe a little bit thicker also than this Howe Racing one, but that's just this shank diameter, or not the shank, the end is actually bigger. That doesn't actually mean that it's any stronger, but maybe I'll put in this FK one. Maybe that one will be stronger, but if this thing is actually bending in there, none of these rod ends will, you know, actually survive long term. But we will put this guy in there. I think this suspension tube is actually probably still fine. This screws out nice and easily. And it's not that I had it screwed too far out or anything like that. You know, you can see that there was a lot of thread all up in there, probably 1 1/8, 1 1/4 of thread engagement all up inside. So not too worried about it being too far out, but I'll try this FK bearings one and see if it fits it up in there. So the FK1 is just too big. You can kind of see the size difference in these two. So this is the HAL Racing one, as I said. So this part is just too big to fit into my control arm setup. So this isn't actually my control arm, but it's just similar to that. So this, you try to put it in there, it's hitting onto the ball joint screw-in mount there. So this is not going to work, but it looks like the QA1 one is, it is a little bit thicker, but it is smaller than this FK1, and it will fit into my control arm setup. So I can at least use this one instead of using the HAL Racing one to see how this works out instead, just in case there is any difference there. I've been looking at other designs a lot and just trying to see if it is something with my design. So mine is kind of similar to this one. It has just this piece that comes off on the side. I have a little bit more meat there to just secure this a little bit more than these, just like these little tabs. I didn't really like these on this one, but yeah, my setup is similar to that it comes off up near the ball joint and then goes off to the body. I've been looking at like the Griggs is similar design as this one. Cortex, theirs is actually more down here for like the S197s and things like that, but their vintage ones are up here, but they use a Clevis style one instead of just this this rod end. So they actually have like just one bar, I guess, down there, and then this side is, you know, like a clevis and goes and captures that piece. I don't know if that's any stronger than this style, but it is one thing that's a little bit different. And then looking at the sway bar mounts, how it mounts to the control arm on the other ones. Some of them do mount kind of forward like mine do. Some of them mount them more inboard into like the center, so there won't be any kind of twisting force on here. That is what I would like to do, is when I change up the sway bar mounting, would be to mount on this basically the center link between the ball joint and the body mount rod end there. So there isn't any really twisting force going into that lower control arm from the sway bar. But I don't think I'll be able to do that right now, because we do need to just get the car back up for racing, and I don't think it's going to cause another failure at this point with the remaining races that we do have this year, which is just a few more, but it's all on flat ground like we've done pretty much most autocross tracks in career. It's all been on flat pads, so I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. So we will get this installed back in there and get this car all buttoned back up.